Hey church girl, welcome to Church Girl Gang, a podcast where we get to talk about life, living for Jesus, and everything in between, and how that affects us in the here and now. My name is Kenzie, and I'll be your host, and I can't wait to dive into this conversation with you. Hey church girl, my name is Kenzie, and I will be your host for today's podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Church Girl Gang podcast. This is a podcast for girls of all ages who love Jesus and want to spend their lives following after him. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, let me just say welcome. This is the place for you. I am so glad that you're joining us for today's podcast. You know, we have been going through a little mini series on like TLC, taking care of yourself. In the past few episodes, they've been really interesting. We've talked about how to take care of your body, how to take care of your mind, just in a biblical, God-honoring way. And I'm really excited for today's episode. We're going to be talking about how to take care of yourself through rest. But if you didn't catch the past two episodes in this series, I want to just encourage you, go back and listen to them. I think you're really going to enjoy them and you're going to get a lot out of them. And before we go any further in today's podcast, let me just remind you guys, whatever platform you're on right now, press the share button. We want to #grow the gang, okay? We want to grow the gang because I really think, one, life is so much better in community, and that's what we're doing here. We are building up a community of girls, but also I really think everyone who listens to this podcast is going to get something really good out of it, something that might change your perspective or just shift what you're doing a little bit for the better. And so press the share button, whether you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, if you're listening to this podcast not as a video, maybe on Spotify or on Apple, press the share button. You never know who may need to hear today's episode. So go ahead and do that right now. If you're in school right now, or maybe you're a teacher listening to this pod, happy spring break, you guys. I hope you're thriving this week. You know, my mom is a teacher. She's on spring break, and we're all super excited to just get to hang out together. The fam and I are actually doing couple day trips this week. We're just trying to have some fun and rest and relax. We're kind of keeping it simple. And I'm so grateful too that I'm getting this little break because we just came off of a very busy season in our house. It was pretty funny actually that on Saturday we all went to lunch together, me, my sister, my mom, and my dad. And my mom looked around the table and said, you know, this is really weird, but I don't think we've all eaten a meal together in weeks. And the craziest part is, you guys, we all live in the same house. So you'd think it would be a little easier for us to spend some time together, but that's just how busy we've been. We're living in the same house and we haven't seen each other hardly at all. And I can tell you personally, I feel like I have been running on empty. Just like my car, but maybe that's for a different podcast to talk about. But anyway, I've just been so tired. In fact, even basic things like doing laundry, going to the gym, bathing my dog, all of these things have been on the back burner because I've just been that busy. Have you ever been there? So busy that you can't seem to take care of yourself or anything else that you're supposed to be taking care of? I know it can't just be me. So those of you that are out there that have felt this way before, I'm with you, okay? And here's the deal. I really think that being productive, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can turn into a bad thing if work or busyness or productivity consumes you, you know? And it can especially be a bad thing if it causes us to miss out on our relationship with God and also getting an appropriate amount of rest so that you can be a functioning human being. And personally, I think the two things actually go hand in hand. So today I want to talk to you about two important ways that we should be resting and why it's actually biblical to rest. Did you know that sleeping can be a form of worship? David actually wrote Psalms about sleep. I love the way the Amplified Version of the Bible puts Psalm 4:8, where David wrote, "In peace and with a tranquil heart, I will both lie down and sleep. For you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety and confident trust." That's why the first way we should make it a priority to rest is through sleeping. I know, did you think you were going to listen to a podcast today about sleeping? But maybe for some of you, this will make you real excited. I know college age me would be all about this podcast. I loved to take naps in college. Going to sleep is a way that we can practice trusting God, right? David said it right there in Psalm 4:8. You make me dwell in safety and confident trust. When we close our eyes and drift off to sleep, we're saying to God, God, I know that you're in control, that you want me to take care of myself, that this is a way I can do that, and that you are in charge of the world and not me. God never sleeps, which is why we can. Have you ever been camping? Like actually camping in a tent in the woods or maybe even a park? I have. And one time I brought my dog camping with me. And for starters, this was just a bad idea on the surface because she's a pug and she is bougie, y'all. She can't just like handle the elements for starters. She gets overheated like nobody's business. There were a couple of times as we were camping when it got hot outside during the day and I had to put her in my car with the AC on just so that she could breathe. And if you think I'm like a crazy dog person, just do a quick search on pugs and other smush face breeds and being in the heat. It's a real thing, y'all. This dog was not made for the outdoors. And that being said, when it came time for us to go to sleep at night, this little baby of a dog, I brought her into my tent. I even let her sleep in my sleeping bag because I felt so bad for her, you guys. And she was a little stinky too from the heat of the day. But as we laid down and I turned the lamp off, we heard cicadas chirping and coyotes howling, and the wind was rustling the trees. And this dog, who I know, and maybe she doesn't know, she is an animal herself, right? She starts shaking and shaking and crying. This dog was shaking and crying. The nerve of this dog to be an animal herself and get scared of nature. I couldn't, you guys. And by the way, I was right there next to her. I was holding her and trying to keep her calm and trying to soothe her. And although I wish she were able to like be a guard dog, like I wish I could have just laid there and been like, okay, for myself, if an animal tries to come after us, I've got my guard dog here and she's going to take care of things. It was kind of the other way around. But of course, I would have protected her if anything came our way, but she didn't understand that, and she couldn't just close her eyes and go to sleep. And instead, we lied awake half of the night trying to soothe this dog to sleep. Sometimes we can be like that as well. We lay down to rest and our thoughts start spinning around in our heads. Or maybe we feel anxiety, or we feel restless, or maybe we even feel guilty for going to sleep. But you know what? Sleeping is a sign of trust and surrender to God. When we go to sleep, we're saying, I trust you, God, to take care of me. Maybe today you need to go take a nap. Just tell yourself, I'm practicing trust in God. Taking a nap could be the most holy thing that you do today, okay? So go do it. The second way that we can practice holy and biblical rest is through the Sabbath. Someday soon, I want to do a whole podcast really breaking this down. But today, I'm going to keep it short and sweet, okay? If you haven't heard of the Sabbath, it's a biblical word that we use to mean a day of rest. God actually shows us how to practice this in Genesis and then commands the Israelites to practice it in various ways later on in the Old Testament. It's actually a part of the 10 Commandments. God says to keep the Sabbath holy. That's one of the 10 Commandments. God wants us to practice for an entire day every week, trusting Him. That's really what the Sabbath is about, along with the fact that God didn't make human beings to work 24/7, right? Our bodies, our minds, and spirits need some reprieve from the grind, y'all. So today, all I'll say about this is that God commands us. Yes, this is a command He put in place to keep the Sabbath holy. So, take a whole day, set it aside, and rest. Don't work. Okay? This is showing faith and trust in God. It's a way that we showcase how we are trusting God to keep the world spinning. And so we ought to find ways to put it into practice. This could quite literally change your life. So, just to wrap this up, you guys, I know it can sometimes be hard for us to give up control of what is going on around us, but that's what resting is all about. God could have made us to not need rest or sleep. I don't know if anyone's thought about that too much, but He could have just made a bunch of Energizer bunnies hopping around, doing things, taking care of things, but that wasn't His plan. Instead, He made human beings who get tired and need some rest in order so that we could put our trust in Him to take care of things when we can't. In 2 Corinthians 12, 9 through 10, Paul wrote, "But He," and that's God, "said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses. For when I am weak, then I am strong.'" Listen, we're too weak to grind for too long. Our strength will give out, but God's won't. So, go ahead and have a rest and let Him take care of everything else. Before we part ways today, I would love to hear from you. This week, my question is, what is the weirdest place you've ever taken a nap? And please let me know. Help me not to feel too weird here, because I'm going to share with you right now the 2 weirdest places I've napped. And the first one was in front of the castle in the Magic Kingdom. Y'all, I laid right down on the ground and fell asleep. True story. And I also fell asleep one time on a bench at the zoo. I know, crazy. I sound a little wild. So help me out. Share it up in the comments below this video or DM at Church Girl Gang on Instagram. When you respond, I'm going to take some comments and share them on our next episode. So do it. I want to hear from you and I want to feature you right here. Plus, I'm going to share pics of my own weird naps on our Instagram as proof that it really happened. So be sure to be following Church Girl Gang on Instagram so you don't miss that, okay? We'll be right back here next week for another podcast. But before we end, I just wanted to remind you of this verse found in Matthew 11:28, which says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." He's the God of rest, you guys. Sweet dreams, and until next time, have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon, Church Girl. Hey, thanks so much for joining me for another episode of the Church Girl Gang podcast. If you enjoyed listening to this and want to help us grow the gang, be sure to leave a 5-star review on your listening platform. If you're on YouTube right now, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. You can connect with the Church Girl Gang and say hello on Facebook or Instagram, and also feel free to connect with me personally on all social media platforms, including YouTube, by searching at Kenzie Carisse or heading to kenziecarisse.com for more content just like this. Bye!